Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Well, we did it. We're here. It seemed like, I don't know, months and months, maybe years of planning.
That feels like it.
Right. I mean, my gosh, it took forever to get this put together, right? Focus groups, charts.
Well, you know,
graphs.
with today's standard, we had to do our Twitter background check, make sure you didn't say anything on Twitter that's inappropriate in the past.
Well, I had that scrubbed. So.
Well, you don't know. You never know. There's
right.
all this technology, the Wayback Machines.
Right. Now, I had to make sure that we really got this set up properly, man. I mean, the focus groups.
The right lawyers.
Pivot tables, all the things we had to make sure. That would have been an interesting name.
Yeah, the right combination of drugs.
Right, of course.
So.
But alas, we are not Pivot Table. That would have been an odd name. We are Audience of One.
Audience of One.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Andrew Belschner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, I know you are. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, you probably know who I am. But next to me here, my co-host, my esteemed colleague.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one, the only, the Montgomery County Marauder, Richard Radio.
Yeah, or Dick. I go by Dick.
Dick Schisler.
People can see our names on the YouTube and Facebook below us.
Yeah, well,
so
look,
if you're trying to find us, there it's right there. If you want to spell it correctly, it's right there.
I'm just going off of what you told me to call you, okay?
Yeah.
Because, look, out in the hall, you grabbed me by my collar, threw me up against the wall, and said, "Hey, man."
It's Midnight Marauder.
No, Montgomery County Marauder. You don't even know your own nickname. No. You said, "Look, out there, man, I'm Dick. Yeah. But in here, when I'm on the radio, I'm the Montgomery County Marauder." That's what you told me, so I'm just going by what you said.
I believe it.
I don't want to upset you on day one, episode one.
Well, wait till we get halway through the episode, and then I'll know if I'm upset or not.
Right. So what's this show going to be all about, man? I didn't bring anything today. I got nothing to talk about.
Well, the concept is Audience of One, which is typically yourself, and so the conversations will be the random thoughts of Andrew and Dick. That's me and you. Yeah. And for our audience out there, if you have ideas of random thoughts, so you're always talking to yourself, like, let's bring it to us. We love talking about random things that
no doubt
people have a long time to think about because the only person they talk to most of the time is themselves.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about this the other day at Red Bricks, actually. I said I felt like I've been doing a radio show in my head my entire life. I don't know how well it broadcasts, but I've always been doing this to an audience of one.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and said, that's a great name for a show.
Yeah.
I said, man, that's good. It's almost like you've done radio before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we are, man. Musings, topics, things that come to mind, stories that we've heard, oddities.
Yeah. So expect like news coverage, current topics, random entertainment things, and then just kind of oddball thoughts, shower thoughts.
Sure. Yeah, you can go with shower thoughts. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. But I mean, honestly, where do we start? I mean, I think the biggest story that's been on everybody's mind here lately, right? I mean, it's been international, global. I mean, obviously the Chinese are involved in this. I mean, this is a big story. Everybody's been talking about it, and of course, I'm talking about Madonna's face.
The singer.
Yeah, Madonna, the singer. Yeah, I mean, everybody's been.
So she has something to do with the balloon.
What? What are you talking about, balloon? Oh, yeah, we can talk about the balloon, but no, I mean, I'm talking about Madonna's face, man.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, she came out on the Grammys, what was it, last week, I guess it was?
Yeah, hold on, let me pull something up. I think I can find a picture. Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, pull that up, man. Yeah, she was introducing, man, I don't know exactly who it was.
Let's back it up real quick.
Yeah.
Grammys. Is that like an Oscars for music?
Yeah, I believe that's an accurate way of describing it, yes.
Well, no, the reason I asked, because I never really looked into it. So is it Oscars for that year, for the music. So like if you produce an album or a song for that calendar year,
I believe that's the way
you
it
get
works,
nominated for a Grammy, and then they might have like lifetime achievement Grammys.
Sure, every year they've got some sort of special award, but I think she was not up for anything. I could be wrong. I didn't watch it. I haven't watched the Grammys in forever.
There we go.
I think she was actually introducing Sam Smith or something like that.
Okay, yeah, because I want to understand when this became a fire topic.
Yeah,
why
it
was
did.
Madonna like?
Well, look,
I feel like paparazzi follows her anyway, so she like hide her face until the Grammys.
right, exactly. I guess she has been keeping a low profile up until this point. I'm not entirely sure.
So the picture I found, the audience can see it on the video version of the show. Is on the left. I assume that's the new version, and on the right, I assume that was relatively.
I don't know the years on those pictures. Obviously, the one on the right, it would be older. I don't know. But I mean, look, she's not doing herself any favors there. She is kind of giving off a little bit of a Star Wars, Clone War kind of vibe. She does look a little like a Sith Lord, I think. But she didn't do herself any favors with the hair.
Do you think so? I mean, it's weird. It's like, what do we find beautiful? And in her audience of one, she felt that this would make her beautiful.
Touche.
And she was married to Guy Ritchie.
She was a long time ago.
So
20 years ago or so.
Guy Ritchie's been doing a really good job on going on podcasts and doing kind of intimate interviews. And every time he kind of mentions being married to Madonna, you can tell he's like he didn't want to say specifically that she's insane. But I think in his political stance was like, oh, we couldn't come to an agreement on multiple things, so we had to separate. That could have been
the amicable
the
thing,
insanity of Madonna. And just
I don't think she needs to, or he needs to say it now. She's kind of saying it without saying it. Look at that.
You think so?
Well,
there's plenty of people who look like this.
Okay, I agree. Okay, I agree. So everybody said she looked unrecognizable. That was
I believe that.
recognizable.
I believe that.
And when I said, I got to see this now, and I looked her up, and I still see Madonna there, okay, but she definitely does look different, right? I mean, it's pretty striking through the cheekbones, and I mean,
it's also different for you than me because our age difference isn't that big, but it's enough to where like I didn't grow up with Madonna being a teeny bopper like when she first started.
Yeah,
you probably didn't either. But I mean,
right.
When if you're 20 years old and you're seeing this, it's like that's normal. Like people look like that normal.
Well, I agree. So look, I don't know how old she is. She's in her early 60s, I'm guessing. She's probably like 60-something years old. Okay. You're not going to look like 20-year-old Madonna for the rest of your life.
So
and
you
that's
think
okay.
she's 60? Is that what you're saying?
Man, I think so. I think she's in her early 60s. I'm gonna.
Yeah, she's 64.
64.
She's 64.
So is that considered mid-60s then?
I have no idea.
I think. Wait, there's got to be a line, right? Like, so when does somebody become mid-something? Right? You're in your early 20s when you're 20 to 23. Mid-20s is 24 to 27.
I imagine 64 to 67 would be considered mid.
Okay. I mean, she is Social Security eligible this year, man. I mean, that's
what's
crazy.
creepy about this? So when I see this kind of talk and the change people go through, then you go see, I saw Top Gun, the newest one, over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at it and the way they were treating Maverick. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, how old is Tom Cruise? Like, they seem to be treating him if he's like 40, because
I think he's 60 as well.
Because I know you served, right?
No, I didn't serve.
You didn't serve in any type of Army, Marines, or anything.
No, I did not.
Whoever I'm thinking about, it was Navy, and I was thinking to myself, I go, what age do you get kicked out of the Navy as a pilot?
Right.
Like when you become too, because there probably is. There's probably like
there's probably
a protocol where it's
standard,
like, hey,
sure.
if you hit 30, you're out.
Yeah, no, I don't know the rules to that, especially for fighter pilots. I'm sure there's
Madonna needs to talk to Tom Cruise.
Well, yeah, because whatever he's doing, he's doing
60.
it right. Yeah,
he's
I think
like
he is
61,
60. Yeah.
so it's like.
But it's obvious he hasn't had a lot of work, and I think that's what we're seeing
maybe
here.
He has, and he has a really good doctor.
Well, that's true too. That's possible, man. I don't know, but I think that's what we're seeing here. Is we're seeing the result of multiple plastic surgeries,
like stack on,
right?
stack on.
And I hate saying that because I have no proof, okay? And far be it from me to cast judgment on anybody's looks, right?
But that's what this whole segment's about.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're right. But I mean, look, it's got to be tough for her, right? It's not like
she's millionaire.
Well, what I mean,
and
what
she's
I mean
on
by
the
that,
Grammys still. She's relevant. They invited her onto the Grammys.
Well, it's
to
rough
do something.
in the fact that you and I can easily say grow old. gracefully. Just let it go. And I think that most people should. Not everybody's going to look 20 when you're 60. That's just the way it is, right? But when you're Madonna and you're in the spotlight like that all the time, and your whole image was being young Madonna and selling that image, I think it's hard for her to know when to let go.
Well,
And
isn't that the quote
this is
she
what
said?
happens.
Isn't that the quote she because they asked what made you want to do this? She's like, oh, I felt younger, or along those lines, like I wanted to be younger.
So that I don't know. That would be interesting to find out, though, that if she's actually addressed these allegations of plastic surgery directly. I didn't think that she actually ever had. I mean, to me, it's obvious. It's starting to have those telltale signs of things that aren't really going wrong.
I know, I get it. You know what she reminds me of? The internet sensation, the cat lady.
Yes, that. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Where you just don't know when to stop, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think what's funny about it, it's like I don't work in that entertainment world, so I imagine her peers are okay with it because everyone else does it in Hollywood.
Right.
But when you have people like us who we don't really listen to Madonna, we know who Madonna is, and then you're kind of like, that's an interesting decision.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Renee Zellweger. Do you remember when she just dropped off the world? And then
she was like the biggest thing in Hollywood.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she was in a movie, and you're like, "Is that Renee Zellweger?"
She looks significantly different.
Yeah,
yeah.
So someone told them like, "Hey, you look different. You're probably not going to get casted."
There's definitely a bell-shaped curve into how much work.
But no one's
going to
stop Madonna from performing.
No, I'm not saying she's not performing, but so she recently did come out and address all the negativity in the comments or whatever, and this is where I kind of. Look, I was taking your side earlier saying that, it's got to be tough to be Madonna and this, that, and the other and trying to look like you're 20 years old. But then she came out and said this is misogyny and this is an example of our society or something along those lines. And I thought, no, I don't think so. Like, you did this to yourself.
I mean, the real person we need to be asking
Right?
that question to is Guy Ritchie because he's married to her. But what do you think of her new look?
Oh, yeah. What do you think he's going to say?
There's a reason I'm not married to her now. I don't know.
I mean, I like cats, but, I'm more of a dog guy. I mean, what is he going to say, man?
Well, I mean, because you also have to ask, is it okay to make fun of her? Because that's what today's view of the world is. It's like,
well, she says here,
it's ageism.
Ageism and misogyny.
Yeah.
I have the quote here. Come on. If she was growing old naturally, gracefully, and we came out and said, man, she looks terrible. Oh my gosh. I would say that's ageism, maybe even misogyny. But this is kind of the bed she made. Right?
Well, that's
assuming that she did this to herself,
again,
and I think we're all in
it's not
agreement
gonna
here that
affect
that's
her,
probably
I don't
what she
think.
did.
People are still going to go see Madonna.
No, it's not going to affect her at all. Not in the pocketbook, anyways.
Yeah, and I think that's really what we all care about is like how the decisions you make like this. It's like, all right, do you just go out gracefully, or do you do something like this to make a mark?
I always err on the side of trying to age gracefully.
Yeah. No, I mean, not in the entertainment industry, man. You can't. So,
but that's what I'm saying. It's tough for them. It's got to be tough. Sometimes it goes well, and sometimes it doesn't.
I don't know. I mean, well, see, what the decisions like this would make me laugh or wonder is like the kids, the uncles, the family who knows these people more than us, and one of the uncles is like, oh man. Okay, that's different. And like,
but no one can say anything to her.
Yeah,
it's Madonna for crying
Madonna,
out loud. Yeah. Well,
anyways,
that was the biggest story.
You
to
like
me.
that? You like that?
Yeah, I thought that was the big story. No, you wanted to talk about this balloon though.
Oh, I don't know. I thought that's where you're going with it, but
Now I think look. With the balloon, we're not going to break any news here on this at this point. This has been out for several weeks now. If you're coming to this show for hard-hitting news about the balloon, this is not going to be the right place, but kind of weird, right? I mean,
now there's reports of other stuff going on.
Absolutely,
and now it's making me wonder, like, do we just not report on this stuff, and all of a sudden it's like,
right?
Oh, it passed through the popularity filter. Now we can start talking to the public about
there
this.
There certainly is that.
It's like, oh, there happens to be 100 balloons everywhere.
Right, and this
they've been there for 30 years.
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of what is deemed news, right? No one cares if there's a weather balloon up there, but we do now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But when it first started, like a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, maybe a week and a half ago, and the government came out and said, nothing to be alarmed about.
All sorts of stuff, yeah.
It's just a balloon up there, guys. It's not armed. Don't worry about it. They painted this picture like it was going to be, I pictured an old man with a talking dog and a little Boy Scout with him. That's an Up reference, by the way, yeah. And so, it's no big deal, no big deal. And then 2 days later, they shot it down. I'm thinking, well, it's not a big deal. Why are we shooting it down? You know.
I mean, your resources are scarce. You got to see what's in the chest that's in the balloon.
Well, right. Well, I mean, man, you could take this any number of ways.
I think what's important though, Andrew, is that balloon was gigantic.
Yeah, the size of 3 houses.
Yeah, so it wasn't just like a balloon. When people think of a balloon, it's bigger than the up house.
It was bigger than the up house.
So
well, and I think you can be critical of the administration saying they didn't act fast enough, or you can say, oh, they acted too fast. But you're in a kind of a strange situation. If you don't do anything at all, then it's seen as this like point of weakness, right? You're allowing the Chinese to do this. But then if you do go up there and blow that thing out of the sky, well, you're going to have to be prepared for some retaliation, right? Whatever else comes from that.
With that, now what I'm wondering is now all these reports now are coming out with like UFOs and I don't know if you pay attention to, I think it was this morning where they were saying that in Canada they didn't say balloon.
A cylindrical object.
Yeah, so a UFO technically, I guess.
It absolutely is.
And then I'm like, all right, so we're going to get something like this for the next 6 weeks of people shooting down stuff or trying to see stuff. And the Super Bowl's coming up. So I was like, man, if this is when you have those audience of one thoughts where if I was a billionaire, how I'd mess with the world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And like that's what I would do. I would get one of these balloons. Like, hey, can we just get what's the biggest balloon we could get? Yeah. And let's just fly it around the Super Bowl and just see what happens.
Well, you bring up an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that with the Super Bowl being here in such close proximity to these. Man, and if this is an alien ship, have we ever considered that maybe these aliens are just big NFL fans?
Or they're just big helium fans, and they're
or
like
both at the same time. Both of these could be true.
They just smoke helium or inhale
Maybe
it.
they're just trying to get good seats for the Super Bowl. They're staking it out or whatever, and they're going to come down right in the middle of Rihanna's performance and just land at the 50 yard. Yeah, she's performing. Okay. She's going to be right there and under my umbrella, Ella, and here comes down, the alien balloon. They're flying a Minnesota Vikings flag, because the aliens don't know who's in the Super Bowl. They just know they're fans of the game, right? They don't know who's playing.
They don't have a good enough telescope.
Yeah, right. We're big Vikings fans.
We couldn't pick up Fox, so we got a YouTube TV cut the Super Bowl. We can't watch it.
It is crazy though, but yeah, you're right. So I think there's been multiple balloons that have been shot down.
Or UFOs. I think technically the UFO term should be used here.
Two or more balloons similar to the first one.
Okay.
And then now you're right. I heard something this morning, or read it briefly, that now there's all kinds of things being shot down, which again leads to the point: are they up there all the time? We just don't report on it. Because
it's fun.
Well, it's like when somebody famous gets bitten by a shark, and all of a sudden, all you hear about for the next 6 weeks are shark attacks. It's like, well, these shark attacks have probably happened all the time, but we don't report on them because you have to have that catalyst to get it going. And now all of a sudden it's, hey, this is a story, this is a story, this is a story. It's kind of just the way news cycles work. So we're going to be hearing about this, you're right. But I do think that we cannot deny the fact that some of these are definitely aliens. Absolutely. I mean, it has to be. There's no other explanation.
I mean, that kind of stuff, you'll never know the real truth behind any of this kind of stuff.
Well, see, and that's another thing is when the story first broke, people saying, oh, they're lying to us. They're lying to us. This is not, just a weather balloon. This is a spy balloon. I thought, have we ever also considered the fact that maybe they just don't want to tell us the truth?
Yeah.
Scare the heck out of people. I mean, if they came out and the president came out and said, we've got Chinese balloons up there. It's weaponized. It's flying over top of it. We don't know what it's capable of.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? People would freak
No, people
out.
would be grabbing their guns and shooting
in the sky. Yeah, so I think there is a certain decorum that the military has to maintain.
Yeah,
and sure, they're going to lie to us, of course. So right now, of course, they're lying to you. That's,
it makes me
some of
think
that's probably okay.
Well, it makes me think of the North Korea propaganda kind of stuff, where if you watch what they put out, they're always claiming stuff. Oh, like. You don't even really know if this is really China's, and China's like, oh, they're confused. Yeah, it's ours. Sure. They seem confused by this, so let's just claim it.
Sure.
We did that.
Sure. I like how they got all self-righteous about it, too.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you shoot down our balloon, man? But think about it. If we flew one over China, what are they going to do?
We'll probably have better things than balloons that we fly over there.
Well, okay, so that's a great point. When this story first broke, I thought, man, how low-tech to have
That's what I'm saying.
a
There's
balloon.
There's a
But-
reason behind it.
but no, there
They're
is.
not going to tell us.
The more I heard about this, though, apparently the more genius this whole idea of having a quote unquote weather balloon actually is, right? Because they fly so high, it's normally above the level at which we normally have radar on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and
Most of-
residential air flight, or
Right.
what's it called? It's not residential. It's called something else.
Commercial.
Well, no. Yeah, it's commercial, but there's also other types of flights. Like the highest flight that is traditionally used every day, it doesn't go. This
Correct.
is above it.
Yeah, and our radar's not
Now we
detecting
might have
things
some
at that.
military flights that are above it.
Sure,
That are normal, happening every week.
Well, and we're looking for certain flight patterns and movements and
Yeah.
things like that, right? And these balloons move in ways that mimic air patterns or things that aren't going to get picked up. So when I learned about that, I thought maybe this is actually ingenious to have this balloon up there rather than some sort of high tech jet. It's actually fairly smart. Maybe they are light years ahead of us, man. I don't know.
Maybe it was to fight climate change, and then we just ruined all hopes.
Right. It was our only
That
hope
was our only hope.
against ice glaciers melting, and it
Yeah.
was fire that sucker out of the sky.
Or this could have been like another GoldenEye episode of James Bond, and it's like GoldenEye 2. There's the satellite. It's going to shoot down.
Well, I'm reading from NPR here. It says the balloons are part of the official fleet of balloons developed to conduct surveillance.
Yeah.
And flights are often undertaken at the direction of the Chinese military.
Often. So they didn't directly say it. They're just like, oh, often. I love reporting like that. It's like, oh yeah, everyone has these balloons, but you know who has them? Really? China has them. So take that information, do what you want with it. But everyone has these balloons, but you know who also has those balloons? China.
Yeah. It says that they've flown them over 40 countries across 5 continents. So it's not like they're just surveilling the U.S.
Yeah, they're probably trying to solve climate change.
Yeah, doubtful.
That's what's
doubtful,
happening.
man. Doubtful.
Well, Madonna and balloons. That was this week's hot news.
Sure is.
Coming up, like we said, we had the Super Bowl, and then that's going to be on probably the topic next week on our show.
Yeah, probably.
Before we take our break, I wanted to ask you for the Super Bowl, how important is it to you? And then, do you know anybody on like the spectrum of like it's the most important event of the year to somebody who's like absolutely hates that day?
I don't know if I know either, but I guess I'll answer your first question. How important is it to me? I think it depends on who's playing, right?
Okay, that's fair.
We're going to lose half our audience, which is one at this point. So we're going to lose half a person here by me saying I'm a Cowboys fan. We can go talk about that later.
There's a great divide in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Cowboys fans.
Exactly. So we all know the recent history of the Cowboys and the Super Bowl. We're not going to go into that. So I think
I do not know that history.
We can talk about that some other time. But
Okay.
I think for me, if there is a team that is just a massive rival to the Dallas Cowboys, and that being somebody like the Eagles who are playing in the Super Bowl, you can't root for them, right? And
so you're going to make sure you watch it just to root against the Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely. So this game is not super important to me. I think what is important is if I've got an event to go to, like last couple of years, somebody in my neighborhood put together a big party, and I mean it was awesome, like a block party outside, had a big screen and food and barbecue and fire going. That was awesome.
Even a
right?
friend
Like,
of
that was a
mine
good
reached
time.
down. Was like, "Hey, do you want to come over to the Super Bowl?" I'm like, "I've never watched football with you in my life."
Right, but it's an excuse to watch the game,
Yeah.
to get together, eat food, and really it's the commercials and it's the halftime performance, right? And so I think The Weeknd was playing a few years ago, and we were all interested in that. I like his performance, like his music, so I was interested in the halftime show. I think that was when Tom Brady got back to the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay and won the Super Bowl, so we were interested in watching that. So I think of it as a big event, but I wouldn't say that it's important to me. I do know some people that it's huge. In terms of a betting opportunity and things like that.
That's always on there where it's like, 50 million people bet.
I've heard the numbers this year are astronomical.
So
people that are betting it, but
for the audience, I've watched football. I understand the rules of football. I had several friends and family that played football, like in college, and so it's like I've been around it. But the thing that always gets me about the Super Bowl is it always feels like it's the longest game of football there is. I don't know if that's normal or if that is like, because most football games sometimes are really long because of penalties,
Right.
And then if there's an injury on the field and things like that. But for some reason, the Super Bowl, like I do not like watching it because I get so impatient. Even if the presentation of NFL today is already long,
Yeah.
because you're only seeing 10 minutes of actual football. But for some reason, with the Super Bowl, when I watched it, I'm like, after the first 10 minutes, I'm like, I don't really care. I'll come back. It's kind of like watching the NBA Finals. Like, I'm going to come back in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Right.
So, like, I'm going to go do something else, and then I'll come back. Because I don't really know is the halftime longer than normal?
Yeah, so I think you're onto
And
something
then-
there. It's not just a feeling. I think it actually is a longer production for probably multiple reasons, one of which being the halftime performance. It absolutely is
I
longer
don't know
than
the
normal.
stats or the times on that. But every time,
Well,
like,
they've got to put in its
but even the
performance.
game, even the game itself. Like I remember watching the Falcons and the Patriots game. That's the game where Tom Brady came back after, the second half, into the second half,
yes.
and then I was thinking to myself, I was like, I feel like I just watched 2 football games, because how exciting the last part was, and how entertaining the first part was. But it was like 2 separate games, and lengthwise, I was like, man, I've already had 2 cigars. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I don't want another drink, and I'm like, I want to watch this game because this game's getting exciting.
yeah,
but I'm like,
yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Well, it's possible that the commercial breaks are longer too because they're selling that ad space.
Yeah,
You know,
I wonder
how
what
expensive
I
ad-
wonder what the stats are on, like how many ads are ran through the Super Bowl opposed to like a normal Monday Night Football game, and then how long are the breaks,
Yeah.
and things like that.
So I think cumulatively, it's all those things added up that probably make the entire thing a longer production
Yeah.
than normal. No doubt. I haven't timed it out. So
yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question there or not.
Well, no, I want because I have friends who the Super Bowl is a big deal, and no matter who
Yeah.
plays,
Well, it is a big deal in that.
like no matter who plays, they have it on their calendar. We're always going to be watching the Super Bowl at this place. We're always going to have invite this many people over. We're always going to have a party every year,
yeah.
and
Well, I think it is a big deal in that it's the largest watched television show of the year, bar none. I mean, the amount of people that watch it every year dwarf everything else. Okay, so
But see, that's what I'm trying to
you
get
almost
to,
feel like you want to be part
is
of
these
something.
people
So the next day
watching
at
it-
work around the water cooler, you're saying, "Hey, did you see that
Yeah.
Doritos commercial?" Because Doritos always goes in. It seems like big time in the Super Bowl. Hey, did you see that Doritos commercial? That was great. Blah blah blah. So I think that's part of the reason why people watch it. Even
There's
people that
even
don't like
there was
sports
even
are watching
a
it.
news report of a Christian-based organization running 2 ads, and I was thinking to myself,
Really?
I know. And then there was another one about Blockbuster running an ad.
I'm sorry. What, for their one brick and mortar store that's left?
But no, this is what I love. It's like because something to report, right? So Blockbuster, I was like, there's no way they're running an ad.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it turns out it's going to be on Instagram and some connection to the Super Bowl. So it might not necessarily be through CBS.
Oh, so it's not broadcast.
It's something. It's not like it's connected to the Super Bowl. And the Christian one is, I was like, why? Okay, like, but they were making a big deal about it.
Well, yeah, I can probably see why.
And but it's interesting to see the excitement, and somehow everyone watches this game. That when you tell me that's the most watched program, that's where I kind of wonder, like, how many people are watching it really want to watch it.
So
it's like-
I doubt it's, gosh, half are probably really into the game, and the other half are people that are there just.
Because you have people like me, like I'll watch football.
Yeah.
I will go to a game and I'll watch football. Like I like watching the game. But like I said, for some reason when I watch Super Bowl, after the first 10 minutes, I'm like, man, this is killing me. Like, just I want to watch more, but this is ridiculous. Like the commercials. Oh, let's show them 10 commercials in a row. I'm like, man, this is killing me.
Right. Well, speaking about commercials, I think the quality of the commercials has gone down slowly over the years. They used to be just hilarious, and now you'll have just a lot of what seems like long attempts at humor.
Yeah.
And they're just not as great as they used to be, and so.
Well, I mean, it's how does advertising work today compared to 20 years ago? It's like it's evolving every day. So they're trying to figure out.
Well, media's so split
Yeah.
too. It's not like there's just 3 or 4 channels anymore. I mean, media's
Yeah.
everywhere. So I think it's a little different. in
I
that
bet it'd be
respect.
exciting if you're an ad campaign manager and you're like, oh, we got a Super Bowl ad. We got to create something fun.
Yeah.
And then we'll put $10 million in this ad and only show it like, I don't know, 4 weeks. Let's do it.
Right. It's probably more than 10 million. Heck, it's probably 10 million just to get it on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know what the prices are these days, but it's multi-million dollars for 30 seconds. And then you got to actually produce the commercial itself. So you're right. It's probably millions and millions and millions of dollars.
I like it. And they only show it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But, so, we should take a break and kind of reset. I want to let people know that we're on the social media. We're Audience of One with Andrew and Dick. It's really easy to find us. We're here every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. The podcast, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff will be available at 11 o'clock and also be aired live on Lone Star Community Radio and then Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. We're going to take our break. We'll be back with more stories. I know one thing you wanted to tell me on the opposite spectrum of Madonna is someone trying to reserve their beauty and keep it forever.
Yes.
And not through plastic surgery.
No, that's
Doesn't
correct.
sound like. Sounds like they're doing it through drugs.
Yeah. And spoiler, it's not me.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We'll be right back.
We're not falling. We take it back to the days of yes, y'allin'. We're holding on to what's golden.
Every Friday, tune into Texas Ticket on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM with Armando Nino of Gull Lake Conroe, focusing on Montgomery County area events and places. Get a feel of the Texas spirit at the event, paired with guest and vendor interviews, event coverage, and ticket giveaways, and so much more. Join us Fridays and punch your Texas ticket. For more information on the show, visit irlonestar.com/Texas Ticket.
Okay, we're back. We're back. Audience of One. Andrew and Dick. So, Dick, if I mention the name Bryan Johnson to you, ring a bell?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think I may have bowled with a Bryan Johnson once.
Maybe that's
such a generic
Well,
name.
he has those. I call him the spawn of the devils because he has two first names.
Oh, yeah.
So when you have two first names as your whole name,
Wait,
there's a chance.
Is Johnson a first name?
I don't know. I just realized it now. I'm an idiot.
No, but I think you're onto something there. People with two first names, you always gotta
Yeah.
have to look at them a little side eye, a little suspect of them.
But that has nothing to do with Bryan Johnson.
No, it doesn't. Nor does it have to do with the guy that I bowled with
Yeah.
all those years ago. It is kind of a generic name, but no. This Bryan Johnson I'm referring to apparently is a multi-millionaire who is taking steps. Actually, I think he's a billionaire.
I just looked him up. I wanted to see what he did.
Yeah. So what?
So what he did was he created a company called Braintree, which specializes in mobile and web payment systems, and it was acquired. Braintree acquired Venmo in 2012, and then it was bought by PayPal.
Wow.
So he just made money by creating a payment processing thing, and then they
Does
bought
it say his net worth on there?
Boop, 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 boop.
Billionaire though, correct?
Probably.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so concerned about payment processing or how much money said Bryan Johnson has. What I am interested to know is how this guy spends his money now. And it's not in the traditional way that most billionaires are spending money, buying yachts and fancy cars. Although he may have that. I don't know. Maybe his own private island. I don't know. But no, this guy has been taking extreme measures to reduce his age.
Well, okay.
And it says here that he's
Because I know we talked about Madonna in the last segment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right, and that's certainly one way of trying to reduce your age.
I mean,
or at
that's
least
what she was
change your
shooting
appearance.
for, right? That was like her quote saying, like, I did this because I wanted to look younger,
Yeah.
like I was in my
Yeah.
like in the 2000s or something like
Yeah,
that.
unless she's, like I said, trying out for a part in Star Wars. I don't know. That'd be perfect. But yeah, no, this guy's doing it in a little bit different way.
Keep bashing her, man.
Well,
Madonna's great.
She
She's
is
great.
great. She is great. I wouldn't consider myself a super fan, but she's great.
Yeah. She's
No,
gonna
but-
be doing next year's Super Bowl.
You know what? This could land it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But this guy, apparently, Bryan Johnson, has a team of 30 doctors and regenerative health experts overseeing this extreme daily regimen, okay? And apparently, this guy, you can actually take like a biophysical age, and you can actually be older or younger than your age is. Your heart.
he's
can be the age.
45.
So this guy's 45,
Okay.
right? And
He's a billionaire.
he is a billionaire. And so I guess when you're a billionaire and you have nothing else to do, this is something that you can do, right? So you've heard of the fact that people say, "Oh, I've got a young heart, I've got an old heart." You can actually have parts of your body that are aging at maybe a pace that's different than the rest of your body. And I think that's the idea here. Is he said eventually his goal is to have all of his major organs, including his brain, liver, kidneys, teeth, hair.
So he has a checklist.
Other parts, yeah.
So he has a checklist of things.
I guess. He wants to have them functioning as they were in his late teens, okay? Which I suppose that's a lofty goal. And
what about his brain? Hopefully that's on the list.
That was number one.
Okay, I was about to say, wouldn't that be hilarious? He does all this stuff, and then he gets Alzheimer's, and so he's just like, what do I look like? I'm 14 years old, but I don't know who I am.
I would like to know how...
It's like Benjamin Button right there.
How teeth, skin, and hair function as they were in your late teens. I don't know.
Well, if he's a nerd, he probably thinks the literal term function. So he would take all his teeth out and put in teeth that function like a teen would have. Does that make sense? Like, he's not going to try to preserve the bones of his teeth. He's like, I need to have the same function I had. That meant like I could eat candy and not worry about cavities.
Oh, I bet this guy's not eating any candy.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I found an article, and I'm going to pull it up for our folks. It has a couple of the pictures on it. That's why I like it. I wanted to show what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So he spends $2 million per year.
Good grief.
And let's see. So that's him. And I guess that's kind of a creepy shot.
Yeah.
I guess this was 2017 before he began.
Oh, he looks terrible.
This thing. Yeah.
There he looks like just a regular billionaire.
And now... That's today. Now it's probably one of his little things. A $50,000 helmet.
So it looks like he's in some sort of deprivation chamber, sleeping at night or something, like a bat.
And then he has all these people come to his house, take blood
every single day.
Every single day,
to the tune of $2 million a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he's trying to
working out.
It says he's trying to biohack his body into regaining its youth. Biohack. That's a really cool term. Biohack his body into regaining its youth.
What's funny about this? Do you think anybody around him is more of like, "Yeah, you should do this because this would be a great science study to learn about the body and learn about da." But I can see him being so egotistical.
I think
where he's like, "Well, I'm probably if you're gonna do that, it means you're trying to make money, and I'm a money guy, so I'm gonna hide all these stats." And I'll sell it.
Oh, he could be absolutely doing this, one, to try and make more money, right?
Yeah.
But then also live longer to where he gets to enjoy his money longer.
Yeah, well, I mean, no telling. I mean, anybody that sticks around and goes, "I want to eat." Let me pull up this picture one more time. If people want to pull up big screen for you guys on YouTube and Facebook. So that's part of his regimen. So he's got broccoli, cauliflower, mushrooms, and I don't really know what's underneath. And I don't really know what's in the middle.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either.
But that's part of his diet.
Well, it says, he abides by a strict vegan diet.
Yeah.
And this is what's funny. It's amounting to 1,977 calories a day. Now, that's a pretty specific...
Low.
It is low, but that's a pretty specific number. And I'm just wondering, if you're so used to a certain regiment like that, what happens if he gets a little crazy and hits 2,100? I mean, does his body just start to freak out?
Well, no, I mean, like... I don't really know anything about diets, but that would drastically change his bowel movements. And he's trying to keep the same bowel movement as 18. I mean, can you imagine a friend giving him the hardest time about this?
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's interesting because we're probably going to see more and more stuff like this. People are going to try to do the extremes, especially if they have the money to. I can't imagine having that kind of money and then dedicating that much money to feeling healthy. But beyond feeling healthy, he's not trying just to feel healthy.
No, he's trying to reverse. He's trying to reverse.
So he has this mission.
It's nuts, man.
Because there's one thing of going to the doctor and they're like, "Hey, your salt is killing you.
Right.
Like you can't just keep eating McDonald's cheeseburgers. Go salt free." And it's like, okay, you'll gain a couple more years, hopefully. Oh, it's wonderful. I have a couple more years with my family. I'll just cut salt out. And then it's almost like that. He went there and the doctor told him, "You're totally fine." And he's like, "Well, how do I be better than fine?"
Right.
And the doctor said, "We're like, no, I just told you, like, we just did your thing. Like, you're fine. Just try to exercise a little more. Well, what about going beyond just exercising? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he probably got this weirdo idea, like, I can turn back time.
Yeah. And he's got the money to do it.
He's got the money to do it.
Yeah, I doubt this came from a doctor. I think this was probably
I'm saying,
this
like,
came from him. It's like, fine.
Yeah.
You want me to lower my sodium? Pfft, I got one for you.
Yeah,
Check this out. Check out what I could do with my billionaire money.
Yeah.
I'm 45 and I'm going to be 37 again. You watch.
Because, I mean, there's extreme discipline in this. And I have to give him
absolutely.
props.
Oh,
Because if he's been doing this
no
since
doubt.
2017, 18, and he looks like that, and he's 45 years old doing it well, I think with the tragedy of this kind of behavior is he could, quote, almost be hit by a bus tomorrow.
Oh, I know. Yeah. There's
And then
always
it's
that,
like, oh, man, like kind of like the Alzheimer's joke I had. He could work this whole body, looks great, and all of a sudden, unfortunately, the DNA code, boom. And then you're like, oh, I don't remember anything, but I look great.
Yeah.
That's the
you say
unfortunate part.
Discipline. It says here that he wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning right there. That's discipline.
I mean,
enough.
a bunch of people do that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, right. For me, I'm thinking hard stop. That's discipline in and of itself.
Not me.
Takes 2 dozen supplements, works out for an hour, drinks green juice laced with creatine and collagen peptides.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what a collagen peptide is. Yeah, well, but anyways, and it says it brushes and flosses his teeth while rinsing with green tree oil and antioxidant gel. Yeah, this is entirely too much work.
Looking at the collagen peptide, it's just a powder, and it's used to improve skin health, and reduce joint pain. That's basically what it is.
Well, he's winning, man. He's 45 and
Well, it gets me about people like this who drastically change the way they operate.
yeah.
Is what's going to happen to this guy if, say, fate decides that day he can't get home. Like his car breaks down, or his jet breaks down, or whatever, and it's like, oh, you're going to be stuck here for a couple of days. Like, well, what about my 1,075 calories of? And they're like,
Right,
oh, well,
right.
we're not going to be able to do it. We have a box of Cheerios. What? Oh, what? Like, and then
Are they multigrain?
well, that's what I'm saying. I could see this guy being that hardcore.
Or Honey
he
Nut. I can't do Honey Nut.
Yeah, you can't. These kind of people amaze me when it comes to that, because I mean the discipline's there, but then when you start requiring things that are not really based in reality.
Yeah, man. Well, there's a fine line between discipline and just being plain nuts. And I think this guy has certainly pushed past that.
Oh
point,
yeah. Well, I mean, imagine the day to day at his house. How many people are in his house?
Well, yeah, and that's
that
what it
work
says.
for
It
him.
says he's hooked up to a machine every night that counts all kinds of
Yeah.
bodily functions and keeps tabs and monitors and
I
stuff.
mean, that's
Oh my
crazy,
gosh,
man.
I wouldn't do it. I don't care how.
But
good
everyone
looking
has
I
somebody
was.
like this in their life. Like, oh, okay, I'm a vegan, and I'm like, I'm cool with all that stuff. But like, I had a rule at our house. It's like when we cook, if you want something special, you bring it,
Right.
and I'll cook it.
Right. Oh,
And-
I'm sure this guy is a charm to go out to eat with. Can you imagine going home to the Miz and saying, "What do you want to eat tonight?"
It's like
And he's like,
he brings over this bag he had in his pocket, and it's like powder. He's like, I just need a spoon, and just starts
Right.
spooning it out. Like, I can't have Cheerios.
right.
I gotta eat this powder.
And she says, "Oh, what do you want to eat tonight, honey? Oh,
I just wanna-
anything's fine. Whatever. Yeah, I'm good with whatever." And she's like, "Well, how about that cool, Chinese place?" No, I can't do Chinese tonight. Oh,
No,
well,
I think
how,
that-
about barbecue?
this
I mean,
guy's
there's
already
barbecue,
planned out,
whatever.
man.
He's like, "Oh, God, I
This
ain't
guy
do
probably
barbecue."
bought like 6 fridges that
Oh, he
has
knows,
all
yeah.
his meal planning in it, and he's like, I'm good. Are you good? You can have one. You can't have one of these because these are prepped for certain days.
Oh my God, you're right. You're probably right. He does have everything.
Like everything, I'm telling you. And,
Oh, and if she to touch one of his meals, oh my gosh, and knock him off of his
well, that's what I'm saying.
1,977 calories.
If you put this
Does it
much,
say in there if he's married, by the way?
who cares?
I'm just wondering if there's a
Okay,
woman that can actually.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you
tolerate
put
that.
so much emphasis in your day-to-day planning. It only takes one thing to knock it off, and then it's like, what do you do? Like, 'cause imagine someone smoking a cigar next to him. I can see him flipping out.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
immediately running to his monitor to check to
Yeah.
see if something had changed.
it's like I inhaled it. It's like,
oh no, that added 2 days to my
Yeah.
age. How dare you?
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Tom Brady's doing this type of stuff behind the scenes, and we don't
And,
even know.
and Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah,
We
you're
know
right.
Tom Cruise is doing something, and I do want to let you know. I was looking at the Bryan Johnson guy.
Yeah.
He used to be a Mormon.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I'm just letting you know maybe they have the secret. So
Interesting.
I will let you know. He
Wait,
graduated.
you said used to be?
Yeah,
or
he
is still,
he left at 35.
he left. Wow, recently.
So,
So I wonder if he left or if they said we don't want any more of you, Mr. Johnson.
I
I don't know how that works.
I don't know how it works either. But
That's an interesting note, though. Thank you for pointing that out.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think somebody like Tom Brady could be doing something like this too, man. I mean,
Well,
they're the same age.
Well, that's funny you bring that up because it's kind of similar to the pictures of what we were looking at with Bryan Johnson. If you look him up, they show when he's younger, and he just looks like a normal dude, like a tech dude. And
Right.
you look at the younger pictures of like especially you look at the draft picture of Tom Brady.
It's
He just looks like a normal dude that's 18 or whatever.
it
all
looked
he
like
was.
he could challenge you to clear off a 12-pack.
Like he's probably really good at frisbee golf.
Yeah,
and
oh,
that's
yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah, he looked pretty normal.
Yeah.
A little round face, like wow, I made it to the NFL.
And now he's
cool,
retiring.
bro.
Yeah, now he's retiring.
Yeah, 20 some odd years later, ridiculous.
Well, I mean, now you're just retiring, but like with all the successes he had.
It's incredible.
But I got to ask you this,
Uh-oh.
because he's
This is
done
gonna be
the
a
re-
Tom Brady question.
well, he's done the retirement thing before,
yeah, for
so-
about a month.
but he's talked about it. He said he was going to retire, and now this isn't for the football fans. This is for like anyone that knows anything about Tom Brady. So, from what I understand, because I'm not a page 6 gossip kind of guy,
Oh yeah, I know that. About him.
but if he retired when he said he was going to retire several years ago, would he technically still be married?
Man, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm going to say yes.
Because that's what I heard from the snippet I saw was
Yeah, she'd had
gave him
enough
the
of it.
ultimatum
Yeah.
like you play football or you be devoted to me.
And he's like, one more year,
And-
baby.
And he said, I'm a master of no one.
yeah.
And
right.
so he's like, get away from me.
So I can see both sides of this argument, in fact.
But what because in my mind it's like, all right, if you knew that was the ultimatum, but you still had the heart to play, right? You made that choice, like, you know what, I'm gonna have to get a divorce because I really want to play. But then 2 years later, I'm gonna retire. Do you think he sat there and when he's filling out the paperwork to retire, he's like, man, I really screwed up. Like, I really love my wife. Like, I just did this for 2 extra years of playing football. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's even worse than that. It's 1 extra year. And
No,
by
I think it was 2.
By Tom Brady's standard, no, last year. He announced his retirement last year because he's initially signed, man, you're getting me off the top
No,
of my head.
I-
I think it was a 2-year
No, 'cause
deal
he- 'cause-
with Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
He retired.
he-
A month later, he comes back, plays 1 more year on a 1-year deal, and that was last year. And during the middle of this season or the beginning of the season is when it all
I
kind
gotta
of
make
went
sure
downhill.
because I thought when he won the Super Bowl with them, that's when he signed on the 2-year deal.
He did, and that was
that's
3
when he
years
got
ago.
divorced.
No, I think you got that wrong, man.
Okay, so she divorced him.
He leaves New England.
Yeah, okay.
Heads to
I
Tampa
get
Bay
you.
3 years ago.
I get
I
you.
think that was already a point of contention. Like, hey, wait a minute, why are you going to go to another team here? If just stay with New England, retire here. No, he wants to go play somewhere else. Blah blah blah. I think she said, okay, 2-year deal. I can live with that.
So she couldn't even live with 2 years.
He did his 2 years there. Won the Super Bowl the very first year. Had some success. His contract was up.
okay.
And then it was, hey,
This
babe,
is important, though.
I know I said 2-year deal. I'm going to make it 3.
Well, I'm
And I think
looking at
that's
it-
I think that's where it went south, man.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to is, we've all been there, especially if you're older and if you've had relationships. You've always been there where you really do have that. It's almost like deadline day, where like you're given like you got to do something to keep it working, or you got you have to do it. You're in control of the relationship at one point. And it might not be so catastrophic where like, oh, we're getting divorced, but like you're in control of this part. It's kind of like, oh, I took a new job. Oh, where'd you take it? Oh, I took it in New York, and we live in Texas. Like, that's huge. That's going to change all of our lives. And you got this. I'm just telling you. I'm like, I could see Tom Brady just sitting there, like, man, I kind of screwed this up. Like,
Yeah, no, I think that's certainly a possibility.
or he already was.
And I think he made the plans to go to Tampa Bay. This is another theory I've heard. He made the plans to go to Tampa Bay and didn't really do a lot of consulting with her. And so it was like, yep, we're going. And I think from that point forward, it's been probably a little rocky. And she
Yeah.
said, look, we got 2 years here. That's fine. And then he retires,
in this
unretires, and
in
magically
this specific scenario, I can't
few
really.
months later,
I can't really
divorced.
judge what really happened with
Yeah,
that.
I don't have no
because
idea.
I'm trying to
speculating.
I'm trying to add like the numbers to it where it's like, okay, so she probably gave him the ultimatum and he's like 2-year contract. She's like, well, I got to put up with it then. And then in between that contract, she's like, you got to retire. He's like, no, I want to keep playing. And then so technically when she divorced him, he's like, I'm going to keep playing. So he played for 1 more year.
Yeah, one more. And it was this past season.
Yeah.
And by Tom Brady standards, it was not a great successful season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made the playoffs. I don't even think they were 500 in terms of their record. And yeah, it was kind of a disappointment. Didn't win a Super Bowl. Went out kind of had
Yeah.
a terrible game. And I think when he was
Interesting.
walking off the field, he's probably going,
I screwed up.
possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, well, I mean, again, I think everyone kind of faces that point, and then kind of, you always end up with some regrets, but then it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, technically it's Tom Brady. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like,
at the end of the day, he's like,
he's
well,
never paying for another drink.
No.
And then he did the amazing thing was go to another football team and or another sports team and be loved in both cities.
It's crazy.
Because that's really hard, especially in New England.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's people up there in Boston are hardcore.
They are.
And so they don't forgive you.
No.
But I think they're going to forgive Tom Brady.
Yeah, he probably will not have to pay for a beer
Yeah.
anywhere in the New England area for a long time.
So
Probably the rest of his life. Again, if he drinks beer, I don't even know. No, I think
Well,
he does.
no, I bet he called that Ryan Johnson guy and was like, "Hey, what are you on now?"
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I think the two of them, they're the same age.
Yeah, they're
Something's
doing-
going on there. I see a correlation.
Well, I always saw like with Tom Brady, he has like that company he has called like
TB12?
TB12.
Yeah.
and
that's not
I'm
annoying.
guessing that's the same thing, right? As Ryan Johnson, but just not as extreme.
Oh, he's
Isn't it like a whole regiment? Like be part of the TB12 regiment, like work out and eat this powder.
I think that's just more of his brand. It probably encompasses a lot of things, including
Does your life involve eating powder?
powder.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably starts out at powder at certain points, but I mix it if
Well,
we're
you
talking
know-
about like a protein.
Yeah,
shake or
that's what I'm
something.
talking about. Like I always
Yeah,
find that
I'll do
amazing
that.
that people like, oh, you know what? Half the intake of food I have is powder.
I wouldn't say it's half, but no, there's a powder or two in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
because like I got for here at the studio, if like I didn't have breakfast, I have a powder that's like a multivitamin green powder,
Right.
Like AG1 or whatever that
Yeah.
ridiculous stuff is. I was like, oh, maybe I can have this if I don't have a meal.
Are you trying to reverse your metabolic age too?
And then I started looking it up because I was like, I need to get something like that,
right.
and something that doesn't take up a lot of space here.
I want to do radio forever.
Well, then I started looking at everything, and there's so many different types. I'm like, man, this is insane. Like, I just need something that's like not technically a meal replacement, but just something that
Yeah.
if I miss breakfast,
Got some
can I
calories,
can I
got some
take
protein,
something?
right? Yeah.
And then I started looking at like you can literally buy powder for every meal, and you're good to go. And
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't want to do that. To me, every now and again, I gotta have some substance. You know, I gotta have something like a hamburger in there.
And then you got those people who are like, I don't even mix water with my powder.
Oh, just take it raw, man.
Yeah, I had a counselor in summer camp. He worked out a lot, and he would do creatine, and he spooned the creatine. And
Well,
then
creatine's a little different because that is soluble in water. So I guess there's some you can
But
just,
he
like, put
just-
under your tongue.
he just spooned it.
Yeah,
and then
I've heard of that too.
Went on his day. He was Canadian.
Oh, well,
I always
that-
thought
oh,
that. I
you
always
should've
thought that was
started off with
Canadian.
that.
I always
Yeah.
thought it was a Canadian thing.
Oh,
It's like-
yeah. No, yeah, you can actually spoon creatine, but it's still grainy. It's like salt. Or,
Well, yeah, it's
like
a
sand,
powder.
sorry.
It's like you're like.
Well, but it's much more coarse and dense than like a protein.
I don't know. I've
powder.
never tried creatine. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have.
I
You
try.
clearly have. You clearly
Dude,
have.
I hit some up right before we
Yeah.
came in to record, man. I was like, I got to get ready for the show. Let me hit up the creatine.
I like it.
Yeah, but
Well-
no, it's interesting. But so if you could choose a perfect age, like so if you could have an age to where you could be at, what would you say is the
Now,
perfect
are you
age? So-
saying like, because there's a Star Trek episode about that where, of
course there is.
like they're like time stopped. So like if you're 12, it's kind of like the Interview with the Vampire.
Okay.
Like if you turn into a vampire at 12, you're a vampire at 12 for the rest of your life. Now your mind might be 12
Sure.
because you're living and generations. So it's
Okay, so let me put it to you
So
this
are
way.
you saying
what
like
would you consider the perfect age to be? And I think this is an interesting question because it's going to vary by gender, right? So men and women are
think so?
likely to have different answers, and it's also going to vary based on how old you are. So if you're 65 years old,
And I'm gonna be
you're-
that age?
You're likely, yeah. What would you say is the perfect age to be? I mean, if you're, like I said, if you're 65 years old, you could say something like, "Oh man, 55 is the best age to be." But if you're 25, you're likely not going to say 55.
No one's going to
so
say.
I think this.
No, the
this-
real answer is no one's going to say anything under the age of 30.
Yeah.
And if to me, if it's a guy who likes being physical, he's probably going to choose something between the age of 20 and 30, because that's when your brain stops developing. You're pretty much
I think mine stopped
at your
significantly
at your
earlier,
optimal
unfortunately.
peak. Now for ladies, I can see them being between the ages of 18 and 25, and then I think that's kind of like my guess is anyone that says between 30 and 40, they might that tells me they had a really good 30
Yeah.
40 age
Well,
life.
anytime I've ever seen articles on something similar to this, people will report that their happiness levels are the best over age 60. So it's entirely possible.
well-
If you were to ask, our parents or something, they might say, "Oh, 65
yeah, but
is where
I
it's
think
at."
that's experience.
Right.
So I could be
So
24 and have the same
for you, at
experience.
however old age you are now,
Yeah.
what age would you say is probably the best age to be at? Right, and there's a ton of different factors.
So this is what I'm trying to ask you. So I'm trying to understand this.
Okay.
So are we
I
doing?
think you're overthinking it.
Or no, are we doing the interview with the vampire scenario, where like my age just stops, but I
No.
keep living?
No.
Okay,
It's
so
just
that's
the
not
best,
what we're saying.
Just the best age to be at.
Okay, but you're still going to get older.
I mean, yeah, of course.
So if I say 24,
But if you could choose an age, I suppose, to stay at.
you're asking
forever.
forever? Are you saying?
Well, if it's the best age to be, wouldn't you think that that's also the best age to be at in perpetuity? It's kind of the same thing. But no, I'm not asking that. Just what do you think is the best age to be?
in today's society?
Well, yeah, sure.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
It is.
I mean,
There's a lot of factors to consider. Because, I mean, you could say at 20 years old, I felt physically the best I had ever felt. But I didn't have any experience in the workplace, so I was making terrible money, or I was still in school
Yeah.
and I hated school
You
or
still have to
whatever.
survive.
Yeah, you still got, yeah. So you go, okay, we'll take
in that
20
case,
out.
I would
but-
do 16
Oh my, okay.
because you can get away. Like in today's world, you can get away with everything, and then you can still make a lot of money through the internet.
Yeah, I suppose you could have
Like
some
some
sort
of
of
those,
business online.
some of those kids are making money some way or
Yeah.
another, and it's like if you need cash, just go on TikTok, or like you never know.
Be an influencer.
Well, not even that. It's like you could sell drugs, and it's not like from what I understand, most like today's technology, all drugs is sold through technology. So I get on Venmo.
I wouldn't know,
Venmo
man.
me. Well, no, there was a study over in the UK and Europe where it was like 80% of all illegal drugs were sold over an app.
That seems through an app. That
Through an
seems
app.
really stupid to do. If I was someone
So-
who was inclined to go buy
And it's door to door.
drugs,
So you go on your app and you
I
say,
don't think I would trust an app at all because you don't know who's on the other end,
Oh, yeah.
right? You're like, oh man, I'm just going to
I
order,
don't know. I mean, I never really bought a lot of hardcore drugs, so couldn't really tell you the story.
even if they're less hard.
But we're talking about the scenario. If I'm 16, I need to make some cash.
Yeah.
I immediately went to drug dealing.
Yeah, you did. I noticed that.
But no, I think
I'm
they're.
gonna write that down here real quick.
I think with the society today, like we have more forgiveness for young kids, and the young children have more flexibility in what they're allowed to do.
Okay, I'll accept your answer. I wouldn't go that young because for me, I would like the freedom of being an adult and not living at home, although that certainly has benefits of living at home. When
Well,
you're a
not even that.
16-year-old,
You might even
you're
have-
not paying
you
for
don't have
mortgage.
to live at home.
You got 3 squares.
But you're on the street, and they're like, "This young kid, this 16-year-old, this is so sad," and like you get away with a lot more stuff. Like if you're 35 and you're homeless, no one's gonna care. But if you're 16 and homeless, there's so many things out there, resources that you could use and survive.
I suppose you're right. I guess I can't believe you've gone to drug use and being homeless. Gosh, I'm just thinking of the ideal scenarios here. You're thinking about worst case scenarios.
Well, you didn't say if my family's there. You just said like if I happen to be. I'm telling you, I'm very detailed on this idea. It's like, all right, if I had to choose an age, and then I'm 16 in 2023.
okay, let's put it
what
this
am I
way
doing?
then. Let's say any
Drug
age
dealing.
from where you're at now in your current life back to 0. What would be your ideal age? Now, this is not the,
Yeah,
the original.
Am I going back in time now?
Well, you could say current.
Okay.
You could say right now if you wanted to.
Oh, again, I'll be 16.
All right, there it is. That's your age, 16. So for me, I took a lot of factors into consideration as well.
I might do even do
Not-
14.
not-
be the next Zuckerberg.
What did he start at 14?
Well, he just being a nerd. I'm like, I'm gonna come up with this app, sell drugs.
Well, you can do that at
If they're
42.
doing it, if
by
they're
the way.
doing it in Europe, I'm doing it here. Well, they never suspect a 16-year-old.
I suppose you're right.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I think I'm going to say something like 35, right? Because I think at that point, you're old enough to have had some experience in a job, and so maybe you're making a
can get a
decent
loan.
living. What's that?
You can get a loan.
Yeah, you can get a loan. You can rent a car.
Yeah.
So important. But you're still young enough physically to where you can get around. You could still pull off maybe going out to a club or something if you're so inclined to. Yeah, I'm not a club guy either, but I'm saying you could still go out
Sounds
and
hard.
you're not quite the old guy in the room, right, at 35. But you might have a little more money than the rest of the people in the room because you got a decent
Yeah.
job or something. So I think that age is pretty good. But I could certainly see where maybe 20 years from now, if you ask me that exact same question, I might say 55, man. Oh, that's exactly where it's at. Like, I'm
You're
at the
trying to
prime.
sound wise. Like, no, man, 16. Because if you got money, people don't care how old you are. And then you have the advantage of being underage, so everyone doesn't really expect it. And it's like, yeah, you can get away with a lot more. It's like that. It's like that
It's a difference
FTX
in
guy.
philosophy.
Like that FTX guy. He had the
Oh,
greatest
man.
idea. Think about it. We got so much money. Let's go to the Bahamas.
Yeah, and just go buy a $40
with
million
all these people. It's like we're just gonna have a compound, and it's gonna be great. We're just gonna snort out. It's probably where all the Adderall went.
That's
It's
why
probably
there's a
literally
shortage.
went to that.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That's why there's a nationwide shortage now. It has nothing to do with the fact that the Bahamas are loose with their regulatory laws
Yeah.
or anything. No, it has nothing.
No,
to do
that's
with
where
that.
that's where all the Adderall went to with the FTX people. They sucked it all up.
Oh, that's a subject for an entirely another show.
But
oh my gosh.
yeah, no, that's. I mean, it's that question's all based on your experience. So you can ask anybody. They're like, "Oh man, when I was 16, it sucked. I was homeless." You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like they
that's
don't want to do that. But I'm thinking it as like, in a logic standpoint, I think our society treats everyone under the age of 18 in a broader spectrum. Or is that a new term for?
Yeah, you're doing great, man.
For rectum, is that what that was?
You're doing great.
Spectrum, and like so, to me, you have more forgiveness and more possibilities at 16 today than you would have at like 35.
Well, you've answered the question. There is no right or wrong answer. I
No,
mean, you
my
could-
answer was right.
You could have said 2, right? I mean, I'm sure you could have justified that.
And I'd be a woman too,
Sure. You can
because
do,
that
you can do whatever
that
you
makes
want.
it even a bigger circle of success.
You can do whatever you want.
So
Awesome, man.
I like it. Okay, well, Tom Brady, he's probably regret. He probably wants to go back to the age of, like.
Yeah, I wonder if he could guess, or I mean, choose an age. What he would choose.
Well, really, you ask him, like, what's your favorite Super Bowl memory? Because he's had so many.
Can't even remember them all.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, those are probably stories
like
for another
that?
time, man.
Okay. Well, you want to take a quick break, or you want to keep going? I know we're almost to the end, so I mean, you know what? Let's end the show on this, so we can just complete the whole football theme.
Sure.
Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my gosh.
So Aaron Rodgers,
Okay.
if people don't know, he's another quarterback, and for some reason, guys, especially guys who really like football, are obsessed with these players and what they do. Like we just talked about Tom Brady. He's played football till 45. Another older quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, and if you didn't know about him, he's been playing for a long time, and I think it was like 5 years ago he started openly talking about taking hallucinogens, drugs,
nuts.
and so he's sitting there now. He is contemplating his retirement by announcing he's going to spend 4 days in darkness while on drugs, basically. And think about the ultimate reset, like the vacation. Some people are like, I need to take a vacation. And then you always wonder, like, what's your idea of vacation? It's like, oh, you get to sleep in? Or is it more of like, no, I need to go on a cruise on the other side of the world and be as far away from people who are in my day-to-day life as possible? And clearly his idea is, like, I want to be alone in a room on drugs and reset. So
And you said this was 5 years ago is when this first came out?
I remember, I want to say it was one of his first big time saying he was thinking about retiring, like when they renew his contract and stuff. And he was like, he felt depressed. Cause I listened to a couple of interviews he's been on. And so someone mentioned to him, like, hey, it sounds like you need a reset, like a brain reset. And a lot of people use this therapeutic drugs to help them reset, like from stress and depression. And it's literally a chemical reset, not just like, oh, hey, a meditation reset. It's like this drug, like a LSD and I can't pronounce ayahuasca.
Yeah,
Like those,
ayahuasca.
so
Yeah.
those kind of drugs like reset you mentally.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a full-on hallucinogen from what I've heard, but it's
Well, I know-
more of like
I know people do it
you
in
can hallucinate.
in sessions with therapists.
Yeah.
Like they'll do
Shaman.
Well,
That's what I call them.
what is that stuff? What's that elephant tranquilizer or like? Man, there's a tranquilizer out there they use in sessions where it helps relax the body and it helps them come over PTSD
Oh, wow.
and things like that. And because there was a comic on Neil Brennan did it where it was ketamine, that drug ketamine, and he did sessions where he come in and do this much ketamine and they do therapy, and then the next session they do this much ketamine, and it helps. I guess it's kind of like a hypnotist thing, like get you off
I'm
smoking.
not familiar with it, no.
You know, you ever seen those hypnotists
yeah,
like
no
get you
doubt.
off
Yeah,
smoking?
absolutely,
So
yeah.
I think it's something similar to that, where like you use this chemical to help reset your brain so you can re-imprint.
Yeah, he says it's kind of just sitting in silence, which most of us never do. Yeah, sitting in silence while on drugs.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the deprivation tanks.
Yeah, absolutely. But
So people do that kind of stuff.
I guess I'm still a little confused. I don't know a lot about this. It's in this article that I just pulled up here. It looks like he's planning on doing this.
Yeah.
And you're saying this was 5 years ago, so he's already done it before.
Probably something similar.
And now he's okay.
I know he's been open about searching for truth and searching for his happiness, because
The truth is, he's like 40 years old and needs to retire. That's the
well,
truth. But oh.
if I had to assume Mr. Rogers,
He can go sleep in the
he
darkness
doesn't-
all he wants.
He doesn't want to play football anymore, but this is what he's good at, and he's like, I'm just gonna milk this as much as possible. I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna be professional, but he'd rather be out doing something else. Because I mean, imagine playing football for that long, and it's like, hey, at one point you do have to retire. What are you gonna do when you retire? And reality probably set in when he's doing his 4-hour sessions or 4-day sessions.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe so. Oh, he's 39.
so it's like, hey, man, you're making $50 million. Just don't stop making $50 million. Like, keep doing that.
Keep doing that, and you can get really baked in the offseason.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good gig if you can get it. I don't think it'd be something I could do. I can't imagine.
Well, no, those are vacations now, man.
Now,
You know that, right?
Yeah, I've heard of
Like,
these.
we could go to, I forgot what island it is over in the South Pacific, and it's like, that's part of the thing, is you have a 3-day trip. It's all paid for. You get the fancy meals, but then it's like, oh, by the way, we have a seance with ayahuasca. And it's like, oh, cool. I'm glad we
That's
have
just all, yeah. Check. It's on the itinerary.
put that in the planner, and the kids are gonna go scuba diving with seals, while I'm over here throwing up in a bucket and getting rid of my evil spirits.
Oh, it sounds horrible to me. I don't care if I've got hallucinogens or not. I am not going to sit in any room for 4 days, let alone in darkness, man. That sounds absolutely. I understand the benefits of meditation. I understand the benefits of probably trying to get out of your head space and reset and do all that stuff. But 4 days of darkness to me sounds like, I don't know. That sounds,
Well,
sounds like a punishment.
What it reminds me of,
My mind would probably start going in places I didn't
It's
want.
like Groundhog Day.
That's a great
Because
flick,
so
by the
many
way.
people are trying to see what he's going to say, because people love football, and like, is he going to come back and be our quarterback? Is he going to be, and especially like the organization themselves, like, are we going to have a quarterback next year? Like, oh, we'll find out in 4 days. Oh, what happens in 4 days? Oh, Aaron's going to be in a room by himself, and that one of those coaches, like, we don't have time for this. Like, he can just tell us if he's not coming back, because we got to make plans. And so it's like you're waiting for the door to open, and you get that phone call. Do you want to know what would be great is he calls the Packers, and they're like, all right, I've reached my decision. I'm like, what is it? I want to play for Tampa Bay.
So this is interesting, though, because I just looked at this, and it says that he's doing this basically to determine what he wants to do after the end of the season. How crazy is that? So it's not.
That's what I'm saying. So many
So in other
people-
words, all right, Green Bay, I'm
No.
going to go off for 4 days. When I return, I shall have an answer for you.
Yeah,
Like, that's crazy.
He's
So
doing the Moses move, dude.
that's nuts. So it's not just like something he's doing just to refresh himself in general. He's doing this to arrive at a decision whether or not he wants to play in Green Bay next year. That is crazy.
That's how we should all make our big decisions. So I can tell my wife, she's like, do you want to have children? I need to take a 4-day retreat, baby, and to
figure
come
that
back
out,
and
yeah.
determine if I want to bring a child into this world.
Yeah, and then when you come back, she's like, "Why do you smell like
And
the
then
bowling alley?"
Well, no, then it gets even worse.
You
She's
weren't
like,
at a retreat.
She's like,
you were at a 9-pin no tap
she's
tournament.
like, Dick, we need to get a new car. I need to take a 4-day retreat. I'll find out if we need a new car or not.
Right. I don't think it works that way for everything.
Well, no, that's
She's gonna just
to me,
eventually stop
that's
asking you
basically what-
questions.
Yeah, it's basically that's going to be. I abuse it so much. It's like I can't make a decision without talking to my spirit animal.
And my spirit animal was a big old.
Like your birthday's coming up, Richard. What do you want to have for dinner? I need to take a 4-day retreat and figure out what my perfect birthday meal is, because it could decide the rest of my future.
Oh man, no, I'm out. I'm out, man. Wouldn't do it. I don't care if
Yeah.
even that was led to bring back
Wasn't
my
that how
biological
society's
age as well. I
kind of
wouldn't do it.
determined a lot?
What do you mean?
Like you always had your shaman
Yeah.
and your tribe, and it's like we
Well,
need.
that's what this sounds like.
It's
to
like
me.
it hasn't rained for 5 years. how do we find the answer? It's like we need to
Talk to the shaman. So this kind of sounds like the opposite of that Bryan Johnson thing where he had a lot of medical doctors there with gadgets. This seems very primal, sort of medieval, like, screw all the technology. We're just going to go back and give you some hallucinogens in the
you're
dark.
gonna figure it out.
And you're just going to figure it out. And that it's sort of the opposite end of the spectrum there.
But can you imagine
And neither of them sound appealing to me.
becoming mainstream to the point where like it's prescribed? Oh, because that's what I'm trying to say. Like these LSD sessions and stuff, like that's a real thing in certain countries. Like it's all controlled. It's like you're doing these ketamine therapy sessions, and you're literally hallucinating. Like the whole purpose of it is you're supposed to hallucinate, and it changes some chemical in your brain, and it helps PTSD, it helps stress, helps all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like you go to your doctor, and he's trying to explain to you you're going to go to a room for 4 days, and you're going to be alone. I'm like, this sounds terrible.
Yeah. Oh no.
This sounds terrible. And talk about audience of one. Like
You're going
to be in your own hell.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I would go to places where I didn't want to go, I think, if it were me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how, again, like go back on that kind of treatment. I feel like that's what old school tribes used to do, where they're trying to find the answers of the unexplained. It's like, we have to go to the stars to see.
He's always been known as being a little weird, a little off anyways, I think. At least that's what I've heard. I've never met him. Heck of a quarterback. Probably one of the best ever. And maybe this is why. Maybe he's been doing this the whole time. He just hasn't been very forthcoming with it. And he's got to the end of his career and he's saying, you know what? What are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, especially in sports itself, there's so many alternatives, there's so many things that can happen in your life that you have no control over. And maybe this is something like he does this to make sure he has control over it.
Sure.
Because he could easily just get hit in the knee and be like, oh, you can never walk again, man. Well, great. All right. You mean I can't play football with one leg?
No, but I can go sit in the room in darkness and get high.
Yeah. Well, I think that's unfair. You say get high. I think it's, again, it's like you're doing those ketamine therapy things. It's not like you don't tell the doctor, can I just get high and you stop talking to me? Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about...
Is that not proper doctor-patient relation? I've asked a doctor that so many times. That's why I wondered.
No, it's not. Because some people, when I was reading about it, and there's a couple documentaries about it, and it's like, it's not like you go to a room and like, oh, they call your name and they give you a needle, and then you go into like a room and you just do drugs. It's like, no, you go to the therapist, and then they go, okay, we're going to give you some of this, and then you're going to sit here and talk to me, and you're going to tell me how you feel. And so it's not just like, oh, I just want to get high, dude, and go on it. But I know it helped. Okay. Apparently, it's helped a lot of people. I can't believe you're just such against it.
I don't know that I'm necessarily against it. I'm just saying it's not for me. It's not for me. Maybe it's for him. Hey, if he emerges from his capsule of darkness next week or whenever the heck he's going to do this, and he comes out and he says, it's like the groundhog seeing his shadow, and he says, I'm playing for Green Bay.
It reminds me of that.
If he comes back and says, I'm playing for Green Bay, and then has the most amazing season, and they run to the Super Bowl, I guarantee this shaman's book is going to be full of people wanting to meditate in the dark for 4 days.
And what I want people to look out for is after the Super Bowl, is go to Vegas and see if people are betting what Aaron Rodgers is going to do.
Oh, I bet you can. I bet you can. I bet Vegas, there's tons of prop bets on the Super Bowl. That might be one of them.
So it's like he's going to not come out of the room. I bet there's a percent chance of that.
He just doesn't appear. He's like, this is it. Poof, gone. Yeah. We lost him, guys.
Yeah,
we lost him.
I like it. But, yeah, good show today for the first episode.
Absolutely, man. I thought it went swimmingly well. I thought it went swimmingly well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on, and hopefully on the next episode we'll be here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Audience of one with Andrew and Dick. We're going to be on social media. The show's going to be live on YouTube, Facebook, Lone Star Community Radio, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1 podcast, and then wherever you can find podcasts and stuff like that. It's all going to be available at the same time. So at 10 a.m., show's available. And if you have a thought on your own when you're having your audience of one discussion, let us know. Reach out to us on social media. And, yeah, cool. Well, I guess that's it for today's show, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for letting me play radio. It's been fun.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Well, we had discussions for next week. We're kind of be figuring out what we want to talk about. We wanted to talk about the Alec Baldwin thing. I kind of wanted to.
Yeah.
With Alec Baldwin getting sued and,
indicted.
And he was indicted, man.
Crazy.
I kind of want to look into that and see where you fall on. Is it fair or not?
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So we'll definitely hit that story up. And then other things that have been happening after the Super Bowl, we're definitely probably going to mention something like that. But yeah.
Sounds good, man. It was fun. Until next time.